Morning, everybody. So now I'm an expert at custard. And for those of you that haven't watched any of my previous videos, I am not an expert at custard. Yes, it's not one of my favourite things. However, it worked very well last time. So feeding on the back of that, I've decided to make Bavarian slices. Vanilla slices, custard slices, Mille Feuille. Hope I've said that right. If anybody lives in France. Val Brennan lives in France. If I've mispronounced that, Val, please let me know. If you're watching. I might just tag you in it and let me know. So yes, I'm going to try and make those. So it is puff pastry and some slices. I think the difference between Bavarian slices and vanilla slices and custard slices, sometimes there's a layer of jam on the bottom. Then there's custard or cream mixture. Another layer of puff pastry. You could just dust that with icing sugar if you wanted, or there's a layer of icing sugar decorated with chocolate in those little swirly bits. So I'm just going to throw the whole lot in and see how it goes. And I might add some almond flakes in as well, just for good measure. Because apparently if you lay those on the bottom of the puff pastry, make it extra crunchy, which I quite like. So I might do that. Right, here goes then. Right, so I've got puff pastry. Not making my own puff pastry. This is Asda's ready rolled puff pastry. You can buy the blocks and roll it out yourself, or you can buy it in sheets like this, already ready rolled. Again, and I don't know how many times I keep saying this on these videos, if it's good enough for James Martin, it's good enough for me. And not just James Martin either, lots of others. Right, baking tray, lined with greaseproof paper, and I've just put a little sprinkling of icing sugar down. So I'm just going to transfer this over to the baking tray. And I might need to just trim off a little bit actually. Let me just positioning this on here is a nightmare. Because my baking tray, if you've got a flat sheet, that would be absolutely perfect, but this is just a little bit too big. So I'm just going to whack a bit off there. To make it sit in the tray a little bit better, because what I want to do to make sure that it doesn't rise too much, because puff pastry rises up into a puff, obviously. I want to put another sheet, another baking tray on top to make sure that it doesn't, I don't want it all fluffy if it's going to be on the bottom of the vanilla slice, the Bavarian slice, whatever. So can you see that? So, right, and to make it, I saw this on a BBC Good Food thing, to make it a little bit extra crunchy and to give it a bit of extra flavour, flaked almonds just on the top of the pastry. So only a thin layer. I'm not going to go overboard because I don't think it needs it. It just gives it that little bit of a nice crunch, and I like almonds anyway, so anything to do with almonds is good with me. It's a good idea. So that's that. And then a little shake. Look at my new little gadget. A little shake of icing sugar on the top. Because I didn't have a tiny little sieve, I was having to get the massive sieve out every time I wanted to dust something with icing sugar. And it wasn't doing it for me. So, right, so I've dusted that with icing sugar. Hopefully that'll caramelise quite nicely. And then cover it with another sheet of greaseproof paper and then another baking tray. So I've got another baking tray that will sit inside there. But I even want to compress that down a little bit more. So, oh, I know. Yes, a couple of loaf tins filled with baking beans. Just get those. Won't be a second. And if you haven't got baking beans, anything sort of heavy, really. So I can put those on there. Get my baking beans out. Come in handy for all sorts of these. Right, so that will weigh those down. And then stick them in a hot oven, 200 degrees, for about half an hour. I don't think it's going to burn because of the, you know, we've covered it up quite well. So shove those in there. And actually, you need to do 2 of those. So when that's done, I'm going to do another one because I want the top one as well. And I don't particularly, if I'm going to be putting icing sugar on, the icing and chocolate swirly things on the top, I don't want that to rise too much either. You can do, you know, the top layer, if you want that to rise so it looks really puffy and then just sprinkle it with icing sugar, you can do that. But I want to put icing on the top of mine, so I want that flat as well. So I'm going to do 2 of those, and I haven't got enough baking trays. So I'll be back in an hour. So I'm on with the custard now. So 500 mils of milk in a pan. Hang on a minute. I'm just going to have to alter this ever so slightly when I'm speaking to you and when I'm putting things in the pan. And then the vanilla seeds, I've already scraped out from that pod. So I've cut a vanilla pod in half lengthways, and those are the seeds from that, and these are the seeds from the other half. So you take the vanilla pod and split it in half lengthways like that, and then just scrape out the seeds inside. And then don't throw the pod away, just wash and dry that out. In fact, I might just put that inside a jar that I've got with caster sugar in, and it just flavours the sugar. So then the vanilla seeds are now going in the milk like that, so that you can see those. And then I'm just going to give that a quick whisk around to get all those in there like that, and then wait for that to heat up. Right, so you can see now that the milk mixture is heated up to the point where I've also whisked my 5 egg yolks and my 125 grams of caster sugar in there. So what I'm going to do when this boils is just take it off the heat and pour it in there, whisking all the time. Now I'm going to have to get a tea towel to put underneath that, because when I whisk it, the bowl's going to go everywhere. So I know you can't see me, but I'm here, obviously. Right, hoping that's going to be okay. Right, I'm going to take that off the heat, and hoping you can still see this, try and do it like that. I have made this last week, and just do it gradually, whisking and stirring all the time, because if you don't, your eggs, it will cook, the hot milk will cook the eggs, and you'll end up with scrambled eggs. It has happened. It has happened. Right. And there's still some vanilla. Those little black bits in there aren't burnt. It's the vanilla seeds. So there's some in here already. And now I need to tip that back into there and heat it up and add the cornflour. So give us a sec. So now I've whisked all of that in, I'm going to pour it back into there. Not lumpy so far, so we're doing well.
and then crack the heat back up on that again. And then just keep whisking that and reheat it. And it should start thickening up. But this is the bit also where you add the corn flour. So up to 4 tablespoons of corn flour. But it's like heaped tablespoons. Now I have heaped it in the past, and it's been too much. But if it's level tablespoons, 4, it wasn't enough. So what I thought I would do last time is to make sure that I get an even, to measure it out properly, is do 6 level tablespoons of corn flour. But actually it thickened up, the custard thickened up, and I didn't need that much. Now I might do that this time, because what I want to do is I want to not just do custard slices, I want to add some vanilla cream, some double cream in as well. And I whisked some cream up yesterday with some amaretto, which I think would go very well with the almond flakes that I've put on the puff pastry. So I want to whisk that in as well, because I did eat mess yesterday, and I used that as the cream. So I've still got a bit of that left. So I might whisk the two in together to make it a creamier mixture. So it's obviously going to dilute and thin the custard out. So I do want a particularly thick custard today. So I'm adding corn flour, flat level tablespoon at a time. So, and I'm just going to whisk it round. Level tablespoon, can you see? So level that it's ridiculous. See, level. And just whisk that in. And I might turn the heat down slightly because I think it's warm enough. Another one. Just level that off. Make sure that's all whisked round. And I've learned now that if your custard does go lumpy, just keep whisking it. So that's 3 level tablespoons now, and it is thickening up the custard. But I do want it fairly thick, and it will take this very, very quickly. Unlike the first custard I tried to make, which I was at it for about half an hour stirring, and it was never going to thicken up because I'd used double quantity of milk. And that was on a live baking as well, which was ridiculous. Right. So that, you can see now, what are those bits in there? I think there might be things off the vanilla pod. Right. So that, you can see, is thickening up quite a lot. And I have I added 4 tablespoons of corn flour to it. I might just add 1 more flat, because I do want it fairly thick, the custard, because I want it to hold the cream mixture in as well. And if it gets too lumpy, I can always blitz it. With the beaters, the electric beaters. No, I'm going to add another one, because I don't think that, as it is going to be thick enough to hold the custard. Right, that you should be able to bite when that's set. Right, so I'm going to set that cold now in the fridge. No, I'm not going to set it cold in the fridge. I don't want it to, before I add the cream in, I want it to cool down. So I'm just going to shake some icing sugar over the top. I'll transfer it, clean that bowl out, transfer it back into that bowl, shake a little bit of icing sugar on the top so it doesn't form a skin, and just cool it down a little bit before I add the cream to it. And then we'll check out how my puff pastry's doing. Okay.
The timer's just gone for the pastry, so I'm just going to get that out the oven. And this is the second sheet. The first sheet I was really pleased with, and I did the second sheet in exactly the same way. So baking beans with loaf tins with baking beans inside, just to weigh it down, and another baking tray on top of this one. And you can see how well that's turned out. It smells lovely with the almonds on as well. So I'm just going to put that onto Auntie Betty's cooling rack that Wendy Ryder Mullen gave me from Aunt Bessie's stuff, baking things that she gave me. There was a massive cooling rack, and it's been an absolute godsend. It'll take 3 of these on the cooling rack, so perfect. So I'm just going to put that on there. What to do when it's cooled down is I want to cut the base, the top of it, into pre-cut slices, so that it's a lot easier to cut, because I think anybody knows when you have a vanilla slice, when you bite into it, it squishes all the custard mixture out of the middle. So when I come to cut if I'm making a big slab of this custard slice, I don't want it splurting out all over the place. So what I'm going to do is I might score it now actually while it's still warm, and then cut it into the vanilla slices, and that'll make it easier to cut later on. Then all I have to do is just go down and cut the base off, through the custard, and then cut the base, if that makes sense. Okay. So I've got my baking tray for the slices, which is a 12-inch by 8-inch baking tray, again from Auntie Betty, so she's great. So what I've done is lined it. If you haven't got a tin like this, because this one's got a false bottom on it, so it's just going to be easy for me to slide the vanilla slices out when they're done, when they're set. A brownie tin will be just as good, and but make sure that you line it so you've got something to lift the whole thing out with. So I'm going to use this as a template. I'm lucky enough to be able to use the base as a template. If you've just got a brownie tin, use the brownie tin as a template, and I'm just going to lay this on the sheet, on the puff pastry sheet, and cut around the outside with a sharp knife, which I've mislaid. Don't know where it's gone. Bear with. Here it is. Right. Dad's laughing in the background. He's laughing at me. Stood here laughing. I know. Having said that, I was laughing at myself earlier on. I was watching the custard tutorial back that I did the other day. God, I don't have to talk some waffle. Anyway, I'm going to shut up and get on with it. So, I'm just going to cut around the outside of this pastry thing. Really sharp knife, because otherwise your pastry will crack. So, and I'm just going to... I'm cutting it along the very edge, and I'm angling the knife in a little bit because I'm conscious that I obviously don't want it to be too big, because it won't fit in the flipping tray then, will it? Right, so that's fourth side, and that's done. So I've got myself a lovely little rectangular piece of puff pastry there that I can now cut into slices. And if you want to be particular about it, which I would like to be particular this particular time, I've got a ruler. So sprayed it with anti-bac spray and dried it, and 12 inches by 12 inches. So I'm just going to mark 6 inches along here and score it there, and 6 inches along this side and score it.
and I'm going to, because when you put the ruler on it like that, it doesn't look even, but it obviously is because it's 6 inches either side. And I'm just going to go, am I going to go down like that? How many slices do I want? Yes, I am. Right, I've got 2 pieces now. How am I going to cut those out now? I've got absolutely no idea. Oh, bear with. I might do, yes, I'm going to do 3s in there and then cut that down there. So I'm going to cut it in half again and then each one of the quarters into 3. So yes, 12-inch by 8-inch tin. So now I've got 12 slices of 4 inches by 2 inches each piece, which I think is just about the right size for a vanilla slice. Well, yeah, I'm hoping so anyway. So that's my top done. Right, so I've got my base here. Put that in there. Slide that in once again. That's in there completely full. No, I need to put that underneath. Oh dear me. Right, I've got that in there and it's all even and it's all lovely. So now I'm going to get the other pastry base and line that in, which I've already pre-cut. There. So I've got 2, one for the base and one for the top. So I'm just going to put this almond side down and hope that it fits in. That's gone in quite well so far. I just need to trim a little bit off these edges. So I'm just going to move that up there. And it crumbles quite easily. So I'm just going to take a little shaving off that edge there because it won't quite fit in. Being really careful with it because I obviously don't want it to break at this stage of the game because that would just be horrendous. Right, how do I get that out now? Right. And that's slotted in. Oh my god, that's perfect. That's slotted in quite well. So I'm going to close that up. So can you see? I've got the base there, in there, and then I can put my custard and cream mixture on the top and then fill in those slices on the top of that and then leave it to set and then ice it later on. So here we've got the custard that I made earlier, and this is the double cream that I had left over from the mess that I made yesterday. So it's basically just double cream whipped up with a couple of tablespoons of amaretto. So I'm going to combine the two and whisk it all up. So I'm just going to give that, yeah, that's absolutely solid. Can you see that? So that is exactly, it's a little bit thicker than I would like, but once I've added the double cream and blended it all in and whisked it all up, it's going to set quite nicely in there, hopefully. We'll see. So I'm just going to add the double cream. That's the theory anyway. So we'll see how that works out. Just get the last scrapings of the double cream into there, and then I'll whisk it all together quite nicely. That's really nice. Okay. Not just saying that because it's got alcohol in it, but every little helps. Right. Right, so I've got some jam and I've got my cream, I've got my icing sugar and I've got some chocolate melting in the microwave as we speak. So, first thing, jam. So I'm just going to put some jam on the base of there and spread that around. I don't want it too thick, I just want to be able to taste the jam. So I think that's going to need a bit more jam. Can you see what I'm trying to do here? Just spread it round. It's strawberry jam, so there are big pieces of strawberry in here. And I don't want it too thick because I don't want it to take away the flavour of the custard. But I do want it to go into all of the corners and cover everything. So I might just take big pieces of strawberry out because I don't want it to be overwhelmed with strawberry flavour and be too thick for the custard mixture. Custard and cream mixture. Right, that's all right. I'm not that bothered about it looking perfect, as long as it's fairly even. So that's that. Yes, custard in next. So if I was very good at this, I would pipe it all in so that it had a nice even layer and it didn't interrupt I've whisked it up a little bit more, but it's still got those lumpy bits in. It'll just have to have the lumpy bits in, I'm afraid. And hopefully, by the time it goes back into the fridge to set for a good 3 to 4 hours, or even overnight, if you're making this sort of late afternoonish, it'll probably won't be ready for tea. It'll need to set overnight. Getting as much of that out of there as I can. And then pushing it into the corners without churning up too much of the jam on the base. Right. Spread it out to the corners first and the edges, and then I can level it up. I don't think there's much skill involved in this, apart from the fact, because there's no skill in making the pastry because we haven't. There's no skill in making the jam because we haven't. But again, if you wanted to make your own puff pastry and you wanted to make your own jam, you could go on forever, couldn't you? Bloody hell. Milk your own cow and make your own cream, crying out loud. Eggs from your chickens. Right. Smoothing all of that down to an even layer, and I'm hoping that now will be good enough. Waste not, want not. Get that spread on there. Right, now I'm going to top it with the pre-cut slices that I did before here. So I'm just going to lay those on the top. Almond side up, almond side down. Don't know really. Almond side down. I think it makes much difference as long as I do it all evenly.
So I've put the top on. I had to cut the slices on the top to make them fit in that little bit better, but they are really tightly packed in there now. Those two at the end, they'll have to be mine because I had to cut them in width, so they're about 1.5 inches, whereas the others are 2 inches. So yes, so I can get rid of these now, and I just want to make my icing sugar. I've melted chocolate in the microwave, and I've melted it in one of these little bottle things. You can pick these up from anywhere, so it's quite liquidy. And I want to just drizzle that over the top in lines so you can score it, and I don't really know which way I'm going to do that. That way, I think. So hopefully that'll turn out all right. So I'm just going to stand that upside down in something. There, so it's drain, and then make my icing sugar. So I've just got 200 grams of icing sugar in there, and I'm just going to squeeze some lemon juice in and mix it around. I don't really know how much I'm going to need, to be fair. Probably a lot more than that. So I've warmed my chocolate, taken the lid off. It's going to have a practice on the thing there. So I'm all right with that. That's looking okay. So I think I'm going to go lengthways. So quite close to the icing. If you squeeze the bottle too much, it comes out in a wiggly line, which it has done. So perhaps I need to do my stripes a bit quicker. I do them too quick and I miss. So the chocolate's not gone down to the bottom enough. I'm hoping that when I drag it, you're not going to notice those little gaps or wiggly lines in the chocolate. Right, that's that done. Waste not, want not, put the lid on that. So can you see I've got stripes? So I'm just going to go up and down. Oh my God, that looks really professional. Ah! How great is that? God, if this works out, you'll never hear the last of it. Right. How great does that look? I'm really surprised. I'm more surprised. I'm more surprised than you are that that's actually worked out okay. And it doesn't look too bad. There are a couple of sections in there that I could possibly just get away with, you know, serving to other people rather than eating myself because it looks a mess. Right, I'm going to put that in the fridge now to set for 3 to 4 hours. Taste test later on. Hello. Right, taste test. It's been in the fridge now for quite a few hours, so I'm just gonna get it out. I'm hoping it's just gonna slide out. Here, which it has. So, which is fantastic, a lot better than I was expecting. So if I can turn it around, I'll show you the end piece. So perhaps more custard, because it doesn't look very thick custard on there. I don't know whether you can see that or not. But, anyway, take that off, and the proof will be, that was just chocolate, whether I've sliced it properly or not, and in the tasting. So get a knife. And I can never find towels in this house, but no sooner have I got a towel out, it disappears. Right. So I'm hoping, right, that's the 2 inches in there. I'm hoping I can just cut down here, because if you remember, I've scored the top. So I'm just cutting through the base, through the custard and the base here, and I'm hoping the top of it. So that's my individual piece. Whether you can see there, custard creamy slice. And seeing as Seth wanted me to bake these, I'm going to give him a shout and he can do the taste test.
Getting into view of the camera.
Stand there. There you go.
Right, we're ready.
We're ready.
Bavarian slice connoisseur.
Yeah, seeing as you asked me to do it.
Very good presentation, Mum.
Thank you.
Jam looks nice and thick. It's a good size slice. Fill me up.
Is
Yeah,
there
delish.
enough custard cream?
Plenty. Yeah, it breaks apart easily.
Yeah.
Problem you have probably at the Pound Bakery or Greenhouses is the
We do not buy things from the Pound Bakery.
Pastry's a bit chewy and you end up biting it and then all the custard slips out of one end.
So that's nice and crisp.
So it's a clean
And crunchy.
It's a clean bite.
Can you taste the almonds in the pastry?
I can now you mention it, but it just added to the flavour when I took my first bite, but yeah. Now you
Is
mention
the
it.
icing set properly on it? Looks a bit runny.
It's a bit gooey.
Is it alright though?
It's still nice.
Great stuff.
Yeah, lovely.